how can women do i'tikaf when most of the masajid don't have arrangements for them? So a quick reminder what i'tikaf is. I'tikaf is when you isolate yourself linguistically, when you isolate and you stick to a certain area or a certain thing, and but its Islamic meaning is to do that isolation in the masjid for the sake of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. It's just that ability to be able to just switch off and get out of the way of the people and distractions, and that is and I think what's really important to remember is that it's not the action itself, although the action intention is good and there's a reward for it, but it's what you actually achieve within that action. So a person could isolate themselves, in the corner of the masjid and then just stay on their phone all day, and what's the point of that? So of course the worship is the key part. So this is i'tikaf, but the key point is that it has to be in the masjid, whether a man or a woman, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ, and so be away from your wives whilst you are making i'tikaf in the masajid. This rule, this in the mosques, and this rule applies to both men and for women. The vast majority of scholars, the Ahnaf, the Maliki, the Shafi'i, the Hanabila, the Muhaqqiqeen, they are in agreement that one has to do it in the masjid. And as the questioner said, most masajid, they don't actually put on the arrangements for sisters, maybe because of space or because of whatever, I don't know. And so what are they going to do? How can they get around it? Yeah, there was some scholars that used to say, a small minority that said, well, okay, a woman can actually make i'tikaf at home in her masjid, and they're using that in a metaphorical sense, the place where she's always making sujood, the place where she's always making prayer, and isolate themselves there. And that's not correct. Yes, of course, there will be some level of isolation and there will be some spiritual contemplation, and you can probably remove some distractions, but it's definitely not a masjid. It doesn't take the legal connotation of a masjid. You can't avoid distractions at home like you can in a different place altogether. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is very clear. He never made i'tikaf in any place other than a masjid. The wives of the Prophet ﷺ didn't make i'tikaf in any place other than a masjid. They sought the permission of the Prophet ﷺ to make i'tikaf in the masjid, and when he passed away ﷺ, then Aisha and Hafsa and Zainab radiallahu anhun, they did i'tikaf after he passed away in the masjid, in the same place that he did, and they would use tents, individual tents, to cover themselves. And that's very important, of course, because one of the difficulties for i'tikaf, for the masjid, they require that greater parda, that greater sitter, that greater covering, and that safety, and that obviously makes it more difficult. So you might say, all right, then okay, we get it, we can't go to the masjid or whatever. I want to make it clear that you don't misunderstand me, that you must put pressure upon your masajid to make arrangements for you, and the brothers need to say, the sisters need to be here as well. We've got to get rid of this idea that they can just do it at home, and because it's not valid at home, and that's what needs to be aimed at. But let's say that it's impossible. You're in an area where it's some masjid that is not going to do it, not even going to listen, or they are good intention and they can't do it. So what are you going to do? So I want to say to you that and this is an important point to remember this. I'tikaf itself, in the legal sense, actually doesn't have a specific reward in the sunnah. It's not actually mentioned that the person who makes i'tikaf in the last 10 nights of Ramadan will get this. No. Actually, it's the process that one will get reward by doing what they get done in that i'tikaf. And I think, therefore, that if a person, if a sister can't get out and has to stay at home, then she should isolate herself, meaning she should turn off her phone and she should try to arrange different levels of care or whatever, so that she can have her own time to make that ibadah. And it's very possible that a sister at home doing her own acts of worship will get more reward than a guy who's hooking up with next guy, and they're all chilling and on their phones and having their socials, and then when in the night time they're just chilling and dossing around, and she will get more done within 3 hours than they will achieve in 2 days in terms of contemplation and tadabbur and recitation and dua. So I wouldn't lose heart, and a person might get far more reward from actually doing that technical isolation, but just not what's called i'tikaf. So let's keep things separate. She's not doing i'tikaf at home, but she can certainly benefit from isolating herself and focusing in that state upon ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.